Welcome to Alicante, Spain for the start of leg 3 of the Ocean Race Europe. Two classes, the VO65 and the IMOCA 60s, will be beginning the final offshore leg, and even after already racing over 2,300 nautical miles, there is no clear leader in either fleet. So, Abby, I mean, let's talk about, there's lots of battles here, but for Mercury Foundation Racing Team, I mean, how many boats have you got to keep your eye on, or is it just a case of our boat, our weather and our plan?
I think the latter now. I mean, it really is going to be a lottery, this leg, and it's all about staying in the breeze. And as Liz Wardley and Chris Nicholson have said earlier in interviews, it's not about straight line speed or manoeuvres. This is really about staying in the breeze and just keeping the boat moving. So it really is all to play for.
Up towards Mark 1, the Alicante leaving mark. Then we get into something a little bit interesting. Down due south after a bearaway to the Tabarca turning mark for a chance for big speeds. And then from there, it's the big push off. Viva Mexico, the Austrian Ocean Race Project, Amber Sail 2 and Sailing Poland all going up to the line at the committee boat end, and Amber Sail 2 getting squeezed out the back, Sailing Poland. They position themselves absolutely perfectly here. It's going to be the Polish team that comes off this line well. The Portuguese boat, Mercury Foundation Racing Team, just having to bear away, finding themselves too close to the line in the final seconds, but the red sails of Sailing Poland are out and they are clear, and they really played that perfectly. Childhood 1 tacking, they were slightly down pace off that line anyway, and there's some big names on this boat. Simeon Team Point as the skipper, Gerjan Portman as well, but actually it's the youngsters, it's the new names that are taking control of this boat. The big named sailors have very much been standing back and letting them make their own mistakes, but also take their own victories as well. That's Viva Mexico going behind them now by a good way. And I mean, 600 miles, you'd think, well, what does it really matter? But you know better than I do just how close the finishes can be over, well, longer legs than 600 miles.
Particularly, and I think it's going to be important to get ahead while they've got breeze, because this leg is looking very light, very typical of the Med of this time of year, and really every second counts. So they'll be wanting to stay ahead, stay in the clear air and be calling the shots here.
But interestingly, that you can see now, just on the left-hand side, Axonabel Ocean Racing. So this is the main rival for Mercury Foundation Racing Team. Obviously, if they just focus on Axonabel Ocean Racing, they can allow the others to get through.
And Axon looking to pass ahead of Mercury by a fair way here. So, yeah, it's all a bit snakes and ladders here on this first leg.
Well, now we're with the IMOCA 60s, and we're going to be dialing back into the VO65s to keep up with them. But let's tune into this start here. Slow at the moment. They're going to need to start winding on to get onto that line and get a bit of speed. But behind them, Bureau Valet and Linked Out taking a very cautious approach at the moment to the start. So 11th hour racing, Tuluid, offshore Team Germany with, unless they pull something off here, what might be quite a tight lane off that line as the pin end comes into view. The red mark on the right-hand side. 11th hour racing team look good. Coram in the middle of the line now with speed, and they are going to have a real wide lane for themselves to choose from. Plenty of fresh air along with Bureau Valet, starting well at the committee boat as the gun fires. 4 teams. Where's the 5th? Well, it's Linked Out, the best performer on the previous offshore leg, feeling obviously very confident with the speed that they're going to be able to bring to the later stages.
Linked Out hasn't made it onto the start line in a timely manner, but they'll be slightly out of shot. Here they are. You can see where they are, just relative to the rest of the fleet, just off to the left-hand side of the camera there.
I want to applaud your decorum there. Not getting onto the line in a timely manner is very, very diplomatically put. But I was thinking as these boats came off the line, offshore Team Germany has been the boat that's been able to point upwind. They've got a different configuration from the other teams, conventional dagger boards. There are times when that does play well, and this is one of them. Linked Out here is also going to be struggling a little bit for that upwind lane. Bureau Valet just in front of them. And it was very interesting talking to the navigators, not only on the IMOCA 60s, but this fleet as well, the VO 65. And there was no one wanted to talk about what they were going to do beyond 12 hours from now. You know, they do have access to data on the boats. You know, they can't have anybody telling them what to do on shore, but they can get the latest forecast. They have to make the decisions. And then, I mean, they've left everything open.
But yeah, it's an interesting, as you said, why Viva Mexico has chosen to take such a deep course here when we're expecting the breeze to free up, which, you know, it would, yeah, I can't understand why you would want to go that low, especially when you're trying to sail in clear air, then you want to stay high. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow this down this leg.
The way that the fleet are positioned now, Viva Mexico in third place. I mean, that's not a bad position to be, especially for that boat. Mercury Foundation Racing Team find themselves in second, with Sailing Poland back in fourth place. Well, I mean, all three of these teams here, Abby, I mean, they're set up now pretty similarly, or at least above the waterline. The sails look pretty much the same, and you know, to give Viva Mexico their credit, you know, they did try and go low for reasons we're not too sure of. It might have worked out, but it hasn't actually hindered them at all. They've been able to come up here a third, but behind them we've got the IMOCA 60s coming around towards the top of the course as well. This is the boat that is going to be putting a little bit of pressure on them, along with 11th Hour Racing Team. Unless something dramatic happens on the other side of the course, it looks like Coram are going to be rounding in third place. So these three teams on the left-hand side. So, I mean, Abby, 11th Hour Racing Team still pushing it over to the left, and you would imagine that this is a case of I only want to tack once, one more time to get round the top. I want to make that ley line very comfortable indeed. Big crucial moment coming up, and you can see Robert Stanjek, the skipper, helming to leeward, giving him a good view of the jib, but also allowing him to keep one eye on 11th Hour Racing. Now as the breeze comes up, he makes his move to windward. So the lead at the moment with Robert Stanjek and Offshore Team Germany. The upwind, medium power section of this start has proved very profitable for this boat here. I mean, we don't want to put it all on the design, because this is a good, strong set of sailors on board this boat. That is a crash helmet there for Coram. Marie Roux, the French Olympian in the NACRA class. Seb Joss, the navigator, just to the right. And interesting, in this boat, we have the comms unit. I mean, maybe that's the reason why we're wearing the big helmet there for Marie Roux, but they're able to talk to each other, even though they're packed in like sardines. It's a very loud boat. So now they start putting up their downwind sail as they go round that windward mark. It is a very strong start to the final offshore leg for Offshore Team Germany. They needed this upwind section to work well for them, and it has. And that is absolutely crucial for this team's hope of an overall victory. And just behind them, 11th Hour Racing and Coram. Abby, this is the manoeuvre that I was talking about. This is going to be the tack, bear away, shall we say, a handbrake turn. The big question is what's happening just off our screen below the picture, because coming in underneath them are two teams that haven't had to dip their speed just as the Americans had to do here. However, a second place rounding for 11th Hour Racing Team is strong, and it is again a very good start to this leg, especially for a team going upwind with basically sailing with your dagger board halfway up on your laser. I mean, that's how Mark Towell, the CEO of 11th Hour Racing Team, put it. And they will be very pleased to not be in this melee here. Coram coming in on starboard, Buer-Valet coming in on port. The two French boats locking horns. It looks like Buer-Valet are going to be able to get round cleanly across the bows of Coram, and that's pretty good news, because Coram coming in on starboard as the inside boat as well would be able to force a little bit of room there. They would be able to take it, but it looks like Buer-Valet, I mean, maybe they even counted that in. They've left that room if they needed it, but they don't. That is what we're not used to seeing in the IMOCA 60s. I mean, that was actually pretty close. This is going to be a major test right now of three different IMOCA 60s, latest generation boats, very, very different foils indeed. Does it go through your mind at this point, do you know what, I'm working pretty hard here on this pedestal, maybe I should save a little bit back for what's to come?
Yeah, difficult question. I mean, it's hard to hold back. I mean, when you're in this sort of under pressure situation, you're going to be giving it everything you can to hold on to your position.
And they're going to have to keep doing that for, well, not hours, days here. That is going to bring our coverage here of the start of leg 3 to a close. We hope you enjoyed it. And these teams and the challenges ahead have only just begun.